Hey folks, a lot of what we do in physics is explaining why certain motions happen the way they do. We have a number of different ways to explain why, but before we get into any of that, we need a really good way to describe the motion that we're talking about and to be really detailed and precise about it. That one method that we have for that is called narrative descriptions of motion. This is just describing motion in words, the kind of description that you would give if you were just talking about how something was moving. But we'll really amp it up for physics and get into a level of detail that you probably wouldn't be in for an everyday conversation. So let's watch an example of some motion and then talk through how we would write a motion or a narrative for that motion. Slowing this down a little bit, we see the car is still to begin with, and then it speeds up for a little while and starts to slow down about there, almost stops, and then it speeds up again, maybe slows down a little at the end and runs off the end of the track. So we're going to break that motion down. These narratives get written in chronological order, so we'll start our narrative by describing what's happening at the very beginning, namely where the car is over on the left side of the ramp, or that plank of wood, and the fact that it's at rest and not accelerating right now. Then we'll break this up into time intervals and look at what happens during each interval and at each moment between intervals. So here we keep this starting condition of being at rest for a little while, so we'll describe that next. Over this next period, our car begins to move to the right, and so we'll want to say something about the velocity being in the rightward direction, as well as the fact that it's accelerating to the right, and that stops when it gets to about midway on the board. The car starts coasting and slowing down. That means that acceleration is in the opposite direction of that rightward velocity. So here it's accelerating to the left. By the end, it gets really slow, almost to a stop. And finally, we see this thing start to speed up again, which means acceleration must be in the same direction as velocity over to the right. It gets to its fastest velocity and it has reached the right side of the board. So that's about it. In chronological order, we described the position, the velocity, and the acceleration, and how those things change over time, and we've got a complete narrative representation of motion from which we can start analyzing what's causing that motion, or move to maybe a different representation of motion, like a motion diagram, or a graph, or an equation. Thanks very much for watching, folks. If you learned something from this video, I'd encourage you to like it, follow the channel so you can see other ones like this, share it with other people you think might need some help with this, and we'll see you next time.